And Prime Minister Narendra Modi vowed to give an unimaginable punishment to terrorists and their backers. Gaurav Sawant explains what all options are before India.
What is the intention? Based on what Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, terror has to be hunted down, terror has to be tracked and destroyed. What are some of the scenarios that India can do? We've been speaking to some of the experts, and some will be joining us on this India Today special broadcast. So what are some of the possible targets that you and I are aware of? Targets that are known where Pakistan, and this is the tragedy of a state sponsor of radical Islamist terror like Pakistan, that terrorism is out there in the open for all to see. For example, Bahawalpur is the headquarters for a UN designated banned terrorist organization called Jaish-e-Mohammed. Muridke is the headquarters of the other UN designated banned terrorist organization called Lashkar-e-Taiba. Of course, in India, they masquerade under this so-called secular name of the Resistance Front. They can be targeted. There are other terror launch pads, there are other terror bases and camps like the one at Balakot and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa that was decimated in 2019. One message that's very clearly emerged after the Pahalgam attack is one, Balakot is not enough to deter a state sponsor of radical Islamist terror. What are some of the assets that India has? The BrahMos supersonic cruise missile, for example, or the Prithvi 3 missile that can be used, or the Scalp missiles can be fired off a Rafale fighter jet. Remember, we didn't have either the Rafales or the Scalps or the Meteors in 2019, something that Prime Minister Narendra Modi had referred to, because if we did, in 2019, Pakistan wouldn't even have dared to attempt an Operation Swift Retort, because we would have had those beyond visual range missiles. And of course, this interoperability would have been much better with the Rafales and the Sukhois and the AWACS operating in tandem. Scenario 2 is something that is a nightmare for Pakistan, and that is the blockade of the Karachi and the Gwadar ports. It's a very innocuous step that India may just take by carrying out exercises in the Arabian Sea. That's very natural. It's international waters. But when you carry out live-firing missiles drills in the Arabian Sea, what does that mean? It means fuel supply to Pakistan will be adversely impacted. It could get cut off if it's a long exercise. That's point one. Point two, civilian cargo movement may either be halted or become extremely expensive, because every ship, when it crosses an area where there are military exercises going on for a prolonged period of time, or there's an apprehension or there's a threat, well, they may raise insurance costs, and then that would also increase costs for a Pakistan that's anyway on the verge of bankruptcy. It's surviving on alms and doles it gets from benefactor countries. But perhaps how long remains the big question, because that too is a scenario. Scenario 3 is covert operations. And this becomes very interesting, because this is where you need to take down high-value terror targets and strategic targets in Pakistan. This is where India has to be very clear. And in the entire Indian opposition was with the government, especially after Pahalgam. The nation is horrified in the manner in which those radical Islamist terrorists singled out tourists and killed them at point-blank range. Some of those images are so horrifying, we can't even show them to you, when people have been shot dead at point-blank range. They asked their names, asked to identify their religion, and when they couldn't recite the kalma, they were shot dead. So this is retribution time. For who? For terrorists like a UN-designated banned global terrorist, the professor of terror, Hafiz Saeed, or that Maulana of terror, again a UN-designated banned terrorist, Masood Azhar, or the key commander involved in 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, Zakir Rahman Lakwi, fathering children in jail, or the 1993 Mumbai blast convict Dawood Ibrahim Kaskar. 257 people were killed in 12 serial blasts in 1993 in Mumbai. Then, of course, the financer of 26/11, Sajid Mir, a key aide of Dawood Ibrahim, Chota Shakil, Tiger Memon, one of the main plotters of the recent attacks in Pahalgam, Saifullah Khalid. There are so many terrorists who need to be taken down. Pakistan is, per square meters, maximum number of UN designated and US designated banned terrorists in any country are in terror central, that is Pakistan. What is extremely crucial is also scenario 4. You see, this is a battle that also needs to be fought in the minds, and especially a radicalized mind like in Pakistan. When you have an army chief who's the son of a Maulana and is equally a zealot who's a radical Islamist, who thinks, as many argue, he thinks of himself as the next Muhammad bin Qasim or a Muhammad Ghori or a Mahmud of Ghazni. He thinks he's going to take this Ghazwa-e Hind against India. That is the radicalized mindset of Asim Munir. Now, when you have somebody like that who's leading Pakistan, information warfare becomes extremely critical. And the world must know, like India has given dossiers of Pakistan's involvement in Pahalgam or the evidence of Pahalgam to not just the ambassadors of P5 countries, but also other important ambassadors today in Delhi. That's the information warfare that India needs to fight at multiple levels, including on social media. Expose ISI sleeper cells worldwide. Very important. Which are these ISI sleeper cells? For example, David Coleman Headley, who was the Lashkar-e-Taiba sleeper cell in the United States of America, or that Captain Tahawwur Hussain Rana, that absconder of Pakistan Army, who's currently in India, extradited after much effort. He was the Lashkar-e-Taiba sleeper cell in Canada. Or people like Ghulam Nabi Fai, paid ISI agents living in the United States of America, spewing venom against India, sitting in the United States of America, and how many more? There's a big dossier, and now it's being given to various countries in Europe and the United States of America. Then there's another aspect that's hotly being debated. Diplomatic support to freedom movements in Balochistan and in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. India does not support terror, but should India be supporting or highlighting the plight of the people of Balochistan and the Pashtuns in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and the atrocities of Pakistan Army? Scenario number 5. And this is perhaps one of Pakistan's worst nightmares. Imagine if India, and this is a question that I'll be putting to former Chief of Army Staff, General Deepak Kapoor, who joins us in a bit. Imagine Pakistan sought the ceasefire with India, so the 770-kilometer long line of control is peaceful. Because of that, Pakistan was able to move 2 divisions plus, and that's good, more than 40,000 soldiers along the India-Pakistan LOC to its AFPAC border, to the Durand line, where Pakistani soldiers are being slaughtered every other day by Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan fighters, and also by Baloch Liberation Army in Balochistan. So Pakistan's 2,640-kilometer long Durand line is bleeding. Pakistan is bleeding there. But Pakistan is safe at the LC, but it's bleeding our people. It's just Pakistan Army was involved in trying to send in terrorists in Uri sector. 2 terrorists were killed just yesterday. So why should there be a ceasefire at the LOC? That's a question that the country is grappling with. The Cabinet Committee on Security, Defense Ministry, they're all talking about it, thinking about it. If India should once again open the LC in terms of the heavy artillery and the mortars once again opening up, that is Pakistan's worst nightmare. Because if it has a hot line of control and if it has a hot Durand line, Pakistan Army will be stretched fighting on the India-Pakistan LOC, on the Afghan-Pakistan Durand line, and of course in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa internally and in Balochistan. The Pakistan Army cannot fight this. Then this Islamist zealot that Asim Munir is, his own country will realize how evil he is. So Pakistan should be stretched along the LC and the Durand line and internally. Make Pakistan Army fight on multiple fronts, because do remember, the more Pakistan Army bleeds, the less India will bleed. That's very clear.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.